What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate. Welcome to my channel. Today, uploading my Week 11 Top 25. Again, this is my personal poll, although you'll find that it's pretty similar to the poll that we just saw come out. I was actually quite surprised. The committee and I agree on a lot of things that you'll see throughout here. I'll show you the committee poll at the end of the video, and I'll do a quick little reaction to that there as well. So this is my personal Week 11 Top 25, along with the college football playoff poll reaction. Guys, 3 weeks of the regular season are left. It is crunch time now, right? We are fully in crunch time, and teams are going to start buckling down and playing some of the best ball that we've seen these teams play yet. A lot of shuffling in this week's edition of the Top 25. But before we dive into that, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff because it helps support the channel. Hey, even watching this video helps support the channel. So I do appreciate anything you guys are able to do. And let's go ahead and move on now and talk about my Week 11 Top 25. But first, honorable mentions. And I got 16 of them this week. I was going to limit myself to 15, but I had to put all 16 here on the list. So you have out of the ACC, let's see here. We have Louisville, Wake Forest, and Syracuse. All of those teams Wake Forest, Syracuse ended up dropping out of the poll, but all three of them can find their way in at some point. Out of the Big 12, you see Kansas back on the list, Baylor there as well as Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State dropped out, and if I had a spot for 26th, it might go to Baylor, or it might go to Kentucky, who's representing out of the SEC. We also see Mississippi State, South Carolina on this list. Out of the Big 10, there's Maryland hanging around right there still. I still think there's a path for them to get into the top 25. Lots of teams out of the Group of 5 realm. You have Troy, you have Cincinnati, Coastal Carolina, UTSA, East Carolina there as well, and then a lone Pac-12 team in Oregon State. That's on the list there as well. After their loss to Washington, Oregon State dropped out, and you can imagine which team ended up moving in, which we'll find out here in a second. But there's still a path for any of these teams to get back into my top 25. Oklahoma State's just struggling right now. Wake Forest is coming off a couple straight losses. Kentucky's still trying to find their rhythm. Baylor's really, really close. But I believe these are the best 25 teams in America, starting off with the Florida State Seminoles. Yes, I got the Florida State Seminoles in here at number 25. And it was really, for me, at number 25. 24, I knew the 24 top teams. 25 is really a toss-up. It was between Kentucky, Baylor, and Florida State. It was really between those three teams. A little bit of Coastal Carolina, but I put them to the side pretty easily once I looked at Baylor and Kentucky. They're all 6-3, so I was like, okay, who's kind of impressed me the most up to this point? And that's been Florida State. Look, what they did last week against Miami was phenomenal, right? 45-3, I believe that final score was. That's just an insane final score, and Florida State's played really well for the entire year, and the Seminoles are going bowling, and they have entered my top 25. I got them slotted in here at number 25. Liberty jumps up one spot here to number 24. What have we talked about this Liberty team? They are a fishbowl team, and they played Arkansas really, really well, and they ended up beating them. They ended up beating the Hogs. Liberty has impressed me so much throughout this college football season. Didn't necessarily expect much out of this team, but man, have they really been a fun team to watch. And I'll be talking about Liberty more as the video goes along, but I do like the way that Liberty's played. They got some really good wins, and I know some of the teams on their schedule have underperformed, Arkansas, BYU, things like that. But those are still really good wins. I mean, they controlled that Arkansas game pretty much the entire way through up until the very end. They controlled the BYU game. They blew them out. I like the way that Hugh Freeze has this Liberty team playing there at number 24. 23 for me is Washington, and Washington is actually 7-2, not 6-3. That is my bad. That is a graphical error. Washington is 7-2, not 6-3. So if you type in the comment section, I know, okay? I saw that and probably had a different team there and had to move some graphics around. I think, yeah, again, can't remember, but Washington is 7-2, and they're looking really, really good. Michael Penix and company throwing the ball. look really good. That defense played super well against an Oregon State offense that can run the ball on you. They defended the run pretty well. And Washington is doing a lot of great things right now. And the path is still technically open for Washington to get into a Pac-12 championship game, although at this point in the year, they're definitely going to need a lot of help to do so, and they got a big one this week with Oregon coming up, so that's going to be a very fun and interesting game to watch. But I do have Washington up here from the honorable mention list at number 23. Illinois is down here, dropped to 22, and I mean, just not a great performance against Michigan State. I mean, overall, I thought they played pretty well, but 1 for 6 on fourth downs. That's what killed them in that pass game. You just can't have that. There were too many times where Illinois, I thought, was too costly with the ball, and this just shows you how close teams are down here. Illinois, in a lot of people's minds, probably still a top 20 team. I just felt like right now there are 21 teams that are playing better football than Illinois showed last week. So you got to look at the whole body of work. Illinois got some incredible wins here on the schedule. Got a little bit of a little bit of an interesting test against Purdue this week. So we'll see if they can bounce back and get a win and boost themselves in my poll next week. UCF is up here. They jump up 3 spots to number 21. Love the way that the Knights are playing right now. A huge matchup in the American coming up. Game day got flubbed. Supposed to go to Tulane UCF. I think they're going to Texas TCU. But look, UCF playing some really good ball right now. Again, they've able to beat Cincinnati. They won their game last week. And now going into this game against Tulane, I think this is the Knights team that has to feel very confident. This is the team that can earn that group of 5 spot. And I like the way that the Gus Bus has this team play. And I got the Knights at 21. As we move into the top 20, where if you saw the College Football Playoff Committee poll, you're going to see some very similar things. And again, I make my polls Saturday night, Sunday morning. So when I saw that the committee and I were pretty darn close on 20 through 16, I was kind of shocked. Notre Dame is here at number 20. I know Notre Dame did not start off this season that great, all right? A loss to Ohio State, well, they're number 2 in the nation in the playoff poll, undefeated, playing some really good football right now, albeit they struggled last week against Northwestern. Then they have that questionable loss to Marshall. Marshall's doing pretty good things there, though. And then Cal. They end up having a shaky performance against Cal. There's a loss to Stanford on there as well. So Notre Dame had a very rough start. But over these past couple of weeks here, Notre Dame has really grown as a football team and able to come out and put on a dominating performance against the Clemson Tigers. I've been very impressed by the way that Notre Dame has grown and been able to play these last couple weeks. And I think this is the top 20 team right now, Notre Dame at number 20. Kansas State is here at number 19. Look, Kansas State played Texas really close, and this was a great comeback effort from Kansas State. It just came up short. Kansas State is a phenomenal team. We've seen it this year, the way they just blew out Oklahoma State, the way they just took it to Oklahoma. Kansas State's got some really good wins this year, and again, one of those losses being to Tulane. Look, their losses are TCU, Tulane, and Texas. All teams I have in my top 25, and this is a Kansas State team that I feel like is still a top 20 team right now. So I put them right here at number 19. Texas, of course, we just talked about them. Not rated in my last poll, although I do think I mentioned last week that they were pretty close to getting in. Now they get in. They're able to beat Kansas State this past week after a dominating performance in the first half. And Texas has some good wins on their schedule there as well. Again, they have a loss to Bama on there, and the resume for Texas is really good. This is a team that the power ratings love, and it's a team right now that I'm kind of starting to fall in love with. Quinn Ewers at quarterback. Bijan Robinson is really starting to get things going. Xavier Worthy has been very impressive all year long. Texas, to me, Quinn Ewers at quarterback makes such a difference, and Texas, I got back in the top 25 at number 18. Tough one this week. Game day is going to be there against TCU. NC State is here at number 17, and the only reason NC State's not higher is because of that injury to Devin Leary. But even with that injury to Devin Leary, NC State did not necessarily play well against Virginia Tech. They played really well last week, especially on the defensive side of the ball. against a pretty darn good Wake Forest team. NC State is a team that I really, really like. Even without Devin Leary, I like this team defensively a whole lot. Offensively, they're really starting to get things moving over there as well, starting to figure out how this team is going to look without their starting quarterback. And I know I've mentioned that at least 3 or 4 times in the past 45 seconds when talking about NC State, but I just like the way that this NC State team is playing right now, and especially with the win this past week, I bumped them up 6 spots all the way up to number 17. And again, this just kind of shows you how close they are, because although NC State, in a lot of people's minds, might not be a top 17 team, the teams that are from 25 to 15 are all really, really close. 25 to 16, all really, really close. So there's going to be some big movers that just move up because other teams drop below them. That's just how these things work. Tulane is up to 16. For me, I got them up here at 16, 8-1 on the year, playing some excellent football right now. And Tulane's got a pretty tough one coming up next week against UCF. So we'll see how that one ends up going for the Green Wave. But just playing some good ball right now. Overall, liking what I see from Tulane and Michael Pratt. And still currently my favorite to be that group of 5 representative and represent the American in yet another appearance for the conference in a New Year's Six bowl game. That's how much I like the play of the Tulane Green Wave. Moving on now to the top 15, and I don't think the top 15 teams are arguable at all. I think there's a clear top 15 teams in college football right now, and it all starts with the North Carolina Tar Heels, who are currently sitting at 8-1. The only reason that North Carolina is not higher on this list is, look, Drake May and this North Carolina offense can be really, really dynamic, and it's great at making some huge, huge plays. But the only reason that North Carolina is not higher is because of that defense. And while I have seen steps for this North Carolina defense, and they have gotten better as the weeks have gone on, this North Carolina defense, it just continues to disappoint week after week. And there has to be a point where North Carolina's defense has got to get better. Look, they got a tough game this week against Wake Forest. I know Wake Forest just dropped out of the poll, haven't looked great the past couple of weeks, but that's still a North Carolina team, that's still a Wake Forest team that I would not take for granted at all. And I don't think North Carolina is going to. It's not what I'm saying, but that defense has to step up and start playing better, especially against an offense as good as Sam Hartman's. And we've seen what happens when defenses go up against Wake Forest and are able to shut them down. They panic, they turn the ball over, and they aren't able to win the football game. North Carolina's got to be able to do that. Penn State drops a spot there to number 14. Again, the only reason Penn State drops a spot because there's a team that jumped up. I'll show you who that is in a little bit. Of course, you see there in my top 10. But Penn State dropped down a spot. Look, no shame. Penn State's able to blow out Indiana this past week. Really, really good things I'm seeing from Penn State. They got blown out by Michigan. Yes, I know, but they learned from that. They came back and they played a close game to Ohio State. Teams that the playoff committee has in their top 3 right now. Penn State's absolutely a top 15 team, and I got them right here at number 14. Like what I'm seeing from Penn State this year. Sean Clifford staying healthy. Penn State's having a really good year. UCLA is here at number 13, and I like UCLA. I really do, and I still think this can be a dark horse college football playoff contender. I do think things have to go right in order for UCLA to do that, because first of all, they have to beat USC here. I believe that is next week. And that's a huge game coming up for UCLA that you are going to have to watch out for. There's actually a huge week in the Pac-12 that's coming up here in the very, very near future. I do believe it is next week. I believe you got UCLA, USC, and then I also believe that you have Oregon and Utah that week there as well. So huge week coming up for the Pac-12. Not this week, but next week. We'll talk more about that when we get there. As for the team that I have at number 13 right here, I like UCLA. Maybe improve on some of the little things in order to improve your standing. But again, not necessarily UCLA's fault. They got to be relying on some teams above them to lose. Speaking of, you got the 2 teams above them. Well, one of them's going to drop, so UCLA's guaranteed to move up at least 1 spot unless they end up dropping their game. You got Ole Miss, who's 8-1, and Alabama, who's 7-2. I really thought about putting Ole Miss above Bama, But you know what? Bama is definitely going to be the betting favorite when they play Ole Miss this week. Me having Bama above Ole Miss may give you a hint at where my prediction is going. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But again, we'll talk about that game more when we get to my prediction video. Ole Miss has played some really good ball. Their only loss being to LSU, a team that just went and beat Bama. Bama ends up dropping 5 spots out of the top 10 for me here because of that loss to the LSU Tigers. And with that second loss, Bama's playoff chances are probably done. Now, Ole Miss still definitely has a shot to get into the playoff. UCLA still has got a shot. North Carolina technically still has a shot to get in there as well. So there are some teams in my top 15 from the 15 to 11 mark that, again, they may need some things to go right, but there's still a shot for them to reach the college football playoff. Keep that in mind. Bama, probably not. They're probably done, but a New Year's Six bowl game is still well within reach for this Crimson Tide team. I got them at number 11, and Ole Miss is here at 12. Those two teams play in Ole Miss this week in the Grand State of Mississippi, so we'll see what happens in that one. Should be a fun game to watch. Moving on now into my top 10, and number 10 is where I got the Clemson Tigers. Clemson, look, people I've seen overreacting about this Clemson team, saying that there is now no way that Clemson gets into the college football playoff. And I think that is just absolute blasphemy. I've seen people say, well, Bama's eliminated, which I think is true. Again, we haven't seen a 2-loss team make the college football playoff before, and now it's unlikely that Bama even goes to their conference championship game unless some chaos happens. So, yes, I do think Bama is done. But Clemson, keep in mind, they lost to a really good Notre Dame team that has only been surging. And I've told you guys that Notre Dame is going to come back, and they are going to resurge, and they are going to get better. But Clemson, saying that Clemson's eliminated from the playoff is just not true. This is the team that's pretty much punched their ticket to get to Charlotte for the ACC championship game, bearing absolute disaster. They got Louisville and Miami on their ACC schedule. South Carolina at the end of the year, and I'm pretty sure they play all of those games at home too. So Clemson by no means is out of the conversation. Yes, there are lots of things to improve on from that Notre Dame game this past week in which they lost 35-14. But I still fully believe that Clemson is going to be able to make a push for a spot in the college football playoff. Right now, do I think they are a playoff team? No, I want to see some improvement from Clemson. But they can still be well on their way to the college football playoff. Number 9 is USC, another team that can be well on their way to the college football playoff. Again, they got to be able to win out. They still got a tough game with UCLA coming up here. Again, like I said, there's a really big week in the Pac-12 looming. USC, I believe, not Cal this week, but there's another game that USC plays that I can't quite remember who they play this week. But USC, this is definitely a team. Excuse me, frog in my throat. This is a USC team that's been playing well under Lincoln Riley. Now, the defense has a lot of gaps. And there's a lot of gaps in this defense, and Cal was able to hit them and almost beat them. So that worries me a little bit if I am a USC Trojan fan. But all in all, if you get your business done, you get your job done, you may find yourself in the top 4. Utah is here at number 8. And again, you guys know I've been high on this Utah team all year long. I've never really looked down. I have them rated a lot higher than a lot of other people have Utah rated right now. Again, they beat USC, so I have that tiebreaker value there. And I think that's the second best 2-loss team in the nation right now. I really do believe in this Utah team, especially when they are playing to their full strengths. When Cam Rising or whoever plays quarterback is going, when that running room is able to get going, when Dalton Kincaid is able to keep his position going, when the defense is playing physical football. That's Utah football, and I've seen them play that this year, and I still think Utah is a very, very good top 10 team. But LSU jumping up 7 spots from where they were last week. 7 spots. Wow. Look at the LSU Tigers. is there an outside shot that they get into the college football playoff? At this juncture, I'm probably going to end up saying maybe not, just because they do have that 2 in the loss column. But a 2-loss team being 7th here, I mean, let's not say anything we might regret later. LSU probably going to be well on their way to playing in a conference championship game coming up here. But Brian Kelly's done amazing work. Jaden Daniels has played really well for this LSU Tiger team. And they showed it last week against Bama. Look, they were able to exploit Bama's holes. They were able to get pressure on Bryce Young, take advantage of that offensive line, really limit what Bama was able to do offensively, make Jahmyr Gibbs and Bryce Young make some plays, which is what happened towards the end of that game, and LSU still came out on top. This is a phenomenal LSU team. I love the way that they're playing football this year. I got them here at number 7. Oregon is here at number 6. Oregon. I think I say this every week when I talk about Oregon, but it's true, right? It rings true. This is the best football that they are playing right now. They have been worlds better since that game on September 3rd in Atlanta against the Georgia Bulldogs, where they got shellacked. This is a much better Oregon team, and it's an Oregon team that, look, they're just outside of the top 5. This is the team that absolutely 100% can go make the college football playoff if they can take care of business and get things done. So I like the way that Oregon's playing. Bo Nix playing like a Heisman candidate right now. And we'll see what Oregon's got going on down the line. Tough game with Utah coming up, though, for the Oregon Ducks. And moving on to the top 5. Should be no surprise that the top 5 teams are. Tennessee is there at number 5, dropping 4 spots. Look, you cannot deny the whole body of work. But Tennessee, they got into a road environment. Georgia was able to slow down the pace of this Tennessee offense, and Tennessee really was just able to get nothing done. They couldn't hear anything because of the crowd volume, and Tennessee looked vulnerable for pretty much the first time all year. Well, they did have their vulnerable moments when they went and played Bama in Neyland Stadium, I will admit, but this Tennessee defense seemed to take a step back. I know they only allowed 27 points, but this was not a Georgia offense that had to be dynamic, right? It was a Georgia defense that had a much bigger job, and it lived up to that job. Tennessee's in a great position right now, though, at number 5, because if chaos happens, who knows? Tennessee may find themselves back into the top 4, and one of the 2 teams above them is guaranteed to lose at least once, because you got these 2 teams right here that I'll talk about in a little bit. But TCU I got here at number 4. Now you might be saying, Nate, what happened? You had Oregon above TCU all this time, and now TCU is jumping Oregon? I hear you guys. My point to that being this. TCU has remained undefeated, and at this point in the season, you have to look at undefeated teams with what they're worth, right? They are undefeated. And if TCU wins out, it's going to be really hard to keep them out of the college football playoff. My personal choice may very well still be Oregon to go up ahead above TCU. But when you look at what TCU is, right, this is a TCU team that starts out kind of slow, especially defensively, and then they flip that switch. And then their defense is playing really well. Their offense is clicking on all cylinders. And yeah, that might mean that TCU gets down from time to time. It happens that way. But TCU, look, man, when they flipped that switch against Texas Tech, the Red Raiders were done. When they flipped the switch against Kansas State, they were done. When they flipped the switch against Oklahoma State, albeit it was a little bit of a closer game, but Oklahoma State was done. Huge game against Texas coming up this week. This is the prove-it game for TCU this year so far. We'll see if TCU really is capable of being a number 4 team. I got Michigan up here at number 3. Should be no surprise, especially with the loss of Tennessee. Michigan, has looked really good all year long. They did have their struggles against Rutgers this past week, including being down in the third quarter, but they were able to take advantage of Rutgers' mistakes, make some fantastic defensive plays, force some turnovers, and they ended up blowing Rutgers out on the road. And up to this point, you may very well say that Michigan has been more impressive than their counterpart right down below them in Columbus, Ohio, who I have at number 2. And I know what people are saying about this Ohio State team. And you guys see the logo on my hat. But again, we remain unbiased when we do these videos. I become biased when I do my Ohio State fan reaction videos. We stay unbiased for these videos. Ohio State definitely showed struggles against Northwestern, and the just play calling in that game was very suspect. It's been suspect for the past couple of weeks now, and this is an Ohio State team that clearly needs to ramp up their physicality, especially before they play the team that's below them at number 3, right? So, look, I do like the way that Ohio State overall has been playing, and when you play in hail force winds and it's raining sideways, good teams find a way to win. But this is an Ohio State team that's got to fix things and fix things fast. They got Indiana, Maryland, and then the game against Michigan at the end of the year, which is a de facto Big Ten East Championship game. Could be a playoff eliminator there as well, and lots of other things. I mean, that could be the biggest game of the college football season right there if chaos doesn't reign true. I know Michigan still has Illinois on the schedule as well. But look, Ohio State's definitely got a lot to fix. That was not a good game against Northwestern. We've seen Ohio State play good games, and we'll see if they can ramp it up in the coming weeks. But the number one team, the easiest number one all season long, the Georgia Bulldogs, who seem to just be a tier above everybody else right now. Georgia's playing at such a high level. They were able to slow down this Tennessee offense, really be able to do whatever they want in that game. They were dominating that game for the longest time, and then Tennessee started to have a little bit of a comeback effort, but there was no denying that Georgia was in control of that game, and they weren't going to let that one go. So Georgia, the reigning national champs, are your new number one, and that is my top 25. When we take a look at the committee's top 25, you're going to see what I meant at the beginning of this video. It's eerily similar. Again, I make my poll Saturday evening, Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, maybe even Sunday night if I can't get to it then. But, like, wow, look at how similar me and the committee agree. Top 5, in fact, top 7, exactly the same. Again, I'm higher on Utah than most, so I'll go ahead and take that at face value. I do have Clemson over Bama, and that's the one thing that I couldn't get behind, although I can definitely see where the committee is coming from. Alabama's only 2 losses are 2 close losses to Tennessee and LSU, in which, well, they didn't necessarily play awful, but there were things that Bama could have definitely improved, while Clemson's loss was just a no-brainer, like a full-on beatdown. Notre Dame was not losing that game. So I can kind of see where the committee's coming from. But, I mean, Clemson's got so much more of a shot to make the playoff than Alabama does, realistically, in my opinion. So, therefore, I think Clemson should be above Bama, something the committee and I disagree on there. I got Ole Miss, UCLA, Penn State, North Carolina, relatively same place. I flipped Tulane and NC State. Otherwise, 18 through 20 are the exact same. I have flipped 22 and 21. Florida State, is down at 25. Washington's up at 23. And I am surprised that the committee is not giving... This is my biggest thing with the committee this week. Give the Flames some love. Come on, Grapevine, Texas playoff committee. What are you doing? Put Liberty in the top 25. That's all I got to say about that. I've been very impressed with the way that Hugh Freeze has been playing this year, and I know Kentucky has been playing well, and I know teams like Baylor have been playing well. Even a team like Kansas may have gotten in over Liberty. But Liberty has played so well against some of the best competition they've played this year, and I think that deserves a spot in the poll. But there's my little rant. I'll leave this up for you guys to watch that didn't get a chance to see the poll when it first came out. But thank you guys so much for watching. Leave your top 25 down in the comment section below. I was, again, surprised with how similar I was to the College Football Playoff Committee. Maybe things won't be too similar next week. There are some pretty interesting games coming up this week that are going to affect the poll. Tulane and UCF, TCU and Texas, and Alabama, Ole Miss there as well, and lots of other good ones as well. That's going to do it for my top 25, my personal top 25 reveal and college football playoff poll reaction. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, everything like that. And remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. I'll see all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.